In this video, we're going to look at how the ScratchPad works. Now, it acts as a kind of storage area to hold events and parts and even whole song sections for later use or reuse. So it's a good way to reduce your clutter in here. You can store things there if you're not sure if you're going to want to use them later or not. And they act like a kind of alternate timeline. You click in the ruler above the ScratchPad, which appears on the right, and it changes the focus of the transport back and forth between the arranged view and the ScratchPad. And playback will then begin within the ScratchPad when you press play. And the contents are always stored with the current song, so you don't need to worry about that. So let's look at working with it. This is the ScratchPad button here, and you see this little plus icon. When I click here, I'll go Add ScratchPad, and it changes, showing that one exists. And we can manage them from here. We can rename them, duplicate them, add additional ones, or delete them. So you can have multiple scratch pads in your song, but only one can be displayed at a time. You can only work with one at a time, but you can switch between them from the menu here. Now we can click and drag events or parts or even the arranger track, like we saw in the last video, into the ScratchPad window. And we move content back and forth like that just by dragging. So let's say, for example, this Rhodes solo that I have. Maybe I'm going to drag this into the ScratchPad over here because I'm not sure if I'm going to want to use it, or maybe I want to modify it and try some variations. I just want to store it. So I can, let's say, delete it from there, try another solo, and I always have this that I can revert to. Just going to hit undo. Or maybe I want to modify this. I'm just going to maybe delete little bits of it like that. Maybe I want to try variation like that. And maybe I want to put it together. Let's say I decide I like this whole thing. I'm going to just shift click and then bring it back into here. Maybe I want to use it in this section over here, this modified version. So there's all kinds of ways of using it. And here we see this first short bit at a different zoom level. So let me just get rid of these for a moment. Now we know that we can move an arranger track section into the ScratchPad. And there are a couple of different ways of doing this. For example, here's the arranger track. I'm going to drag this in over here. And what I've done is copied it in. So I can work on this. Maybe I want to change the drum loop or change some of the hand clap rhythms or any other element. Maybe I want to reuse it later in the song as a new section. All possibilities in the ScratchPad. It's a storage area. I'm going to hit undo. Now I can Alt or Option drag and bring it into the current ScratchPad, and it'll remove it from here and bring it in here. So that's another way of using it. And again, I'm going to hit undo. Or you'll notice we're in ScratchPad 1. We can right click and either copy or move it to a new ScratchPad. So if I go copy to new ScratchPad, it remains here, but now it's in ScratchPad 2. And I can go back to ScratchPad 1, which is empty. Maybe I'll bring this in again. Now, each ScratchPad has its own loop cycle range separate from the main timeline. The default is 4 bars, but of course you can adjust it the same way you do the loop range in the main arrange view. And we can use the listen tool to audition events and parts in the ScratchPad. And we can do that in the context of the main arrange as it's playing back. Like maybe I'm going to make some changes in here, deleting some parts, just for example, or maybe I've altered it somehow. And I want to hear what it sounds like in context here. So I'm going to select this and hit Shift M to mute it. And then what I can do is start playback here in the arrange view and click in the ScratchPad with the listen tool. So I'm going to hit 8 to get my listen tool. We see it up here. And let's just start playback. Well, I can play back from here even. So I can audition it even in different sections of the song. Very useful. Maybe I like that little fragment in this intro figure, and I can just drag it in there and place it there. So it's got a lot of uses. So those are just a few ideas on how you can use the ScratchPad in your arranging and writing. I'll see you for more in the next video.